Hey YouTube, it's Dave here and thank you for tuning into this video. Today, I'm going to talk about how you know when it's time to let go in your life. Something, either a situation, a scenario, or just even a way of thinking or a perception. So there's a number of stages that happen and that you go through, and change will come your way whether you like it or not. And if you're unconscious through the whole situation from beginning to end and something is not supposed to be in your life, or just the way you are thinking or perceiving the world is no longer true to some of the internal values that are coming up on the inside that are shifting and morphing into higher, better values, then there's this process. And I've witnessed this process in my life, and this is kind of and in other people's, and this is kind of how it goes if you're unconscious. So first off, the first stage is just autopilot. So you are always doing the thing you have been doing just because that is the way it has always been. You just do it, you don't even think about it. And the more you do it, the more unconscious it gets, the more autopilot it gets. And now there's some benefits to this in establishing a routine, because it makes your day very efficient and you don't spend a lot of energy at something you're doing on autopilot. But that can sometimes be a very, very early warning sign that something is shifting or changing inside of you. But maybe you're not aware of it at this stage. So that autopilot, eventually you're doing this situation or in this scenario, and that will grow into sort of more of a boredom and a restlessness. And this is when a slight energy drain starts to happen. Boredom and restlessness are there are emotions that are starting to come to the surface that are trying to tell you that something is not quite right. There's no, in terms of the harmony between your internal self and the external world. And maybe you're just not quite fully present anymore in the activities or the situation that you're doing, and or just you don't get quite the same joy out of it that you used to. And so those will start to slowly, those positive feelings, the scenarios that used to feed you and elevate you, you're sort of now like kind of meh, not really a big deal. You've got sort of no positive or negative feelings towards it one way or the other. Okay, so this is sort of the subconscious coming to the conscious. The negative emotions that will start to arise a little bit more in the next stage, if you don't notice this or not paying attention, is those negative emotions will start to grow. The boredom and the restlessness will start to turn into anxiety or anger. And those will start coming up to the surface while you're in these situations. And those emotions are coming up because those are the evidence that your core values and what truly means something to you on the inside is starting to change. It's starting to shift. It's starting to grow. And maybe the situation you're in doesn't quite fit that anymore, or how you're thinking, you're relating to that situation doesn't quite fit the new you that's coming, or the new values and beliefs that are coming to the surface as you go through your growth. Okay, so the anger and the anxiety start to increase, and that starts to create a rift, more of a rift between you and the situation, because now you're starting to become consciously aware that whenever you get into that situation, you're going to start feeling like crap. You're going to start feeling that anxiety or that anger or that frustration just grow and build more and more and more. And those emotions are there to help sort of point that out to you, to start to say to you, hey, look inside, see what's going on, see what you need to change here, and then deal with it. And so at this stage, if you're still not conscious of what's going on, you're not paying attention, or you're still in that autopilot mode, but the negative emotions are starting to build and build, and this core feeling or belief inside you is arising anymore, the next stage, the negative emotions will just start to grow, and eventually they will start to explode. And they will explode in anger, they will explode in rage, the anxiety will start to become panic attacks. All of these heightened emotions are designed to put you into action to do something, and you have to channel it in a positive way. But if you're not conscious, or you have no idea what's going on and where they're coming from, they're just going to take you over. You're going to blurt out. You're going to end up fighting with people that you love. You're going to end up saying stupid things that you regret. You're going to end up putting yourself in situations that are not necessarily in your highest or best interest, because those negative emotions are starting to take over. They're going to be stronger than your willpower will be able to manage. And when they come up, you will have to follow them whether you like it or not. And it's not a very enjoyable place to be. So this can continue on for some time. And if it does, what happens next in the next stage is suppression. And so with the suppression, there's some type of alternate belief or opposing belief or just way of thinking that is still stopping you. Either you're unconscious or you've now succumbed to the fears in your head. You know you have to make a change, but all of the fears in your head that tell you all of the bad things that are going to happen in your life when you do make that change are starting to override you and overrun you, and they are now controlling you on one side. And then when you go in the situation that you hate, you now don't like anymore, those negative emotions control you, and you just don't want to have anything to do with any of them because it's just terrible to feel this way all the time. So what you do, you push them down, you suppress them, you just bury them aside, you go on autopilot again, you just go back into unconscious mode, and you repeat the same things that you've been doing over and over again, and it becomes like Walking Dead. There's no joy, there's no passion in it anymore. It's just you're doing it and you're praying for the day that something may change. Be careful what you wish for. So you go through the suppression, the emotions come down, you just continue on, you don't make any changes, and then what happens over time, now these are long stages. There's not like a few days at a time. These can continue on over years, and people that are particularly strong-willed can push those emotions down quite strongly for a long period of time. And if you do, and you're not aware of anything inside you that has shifted, that is trying to push you to make a change in your life, then what happens in the next stage is eventually you'll just have this chronic energy drain from holding all of these emotions at bay and pushing them down. It takes so much of your energy that you just start to get depressed, and everything starts to feel hopeless, and you're just like, oh my God, all the time. Like, how can I continue on like this? This just sucks so much. And so this continues on for a period of time, and this can continue on for a long period of time. For some people, it never stops. This just the energy drain, the amount of time and energy it takes to consume and repress and suppress these unconscious emotions just takes so much out of you. You just don't have anything in you anymore. Final stage is that if something is not supposed to be in your life, or you really are meant to move into a new way of thinking, sometimes life will bring the change for you. And if you go through all these stages, and I have, trust me, I have, and this is why I'm making this video, because I don't want anyone else to go through these stages. You know, being depressed really, really sucks. Is that life can give you a scenario or a situation in which it forces you to stop and do everything you're doing, and you have no option but to sit and look and be with yourself and contemplate with yourself. And so how this can manifest, many things and many different ways. Sometimes it can manifest as an illness. Sometimes you can be surprising, just out of nowhere. Something happens in your life that just throws you for a loop. You get fired from your job, your partner dumps you, something like that, something big. And it usually is something big, because that is a thing that forces you to reevaluate. So you don't want to wait till this happens, because by the time this happens, many years have gone by, and you've just, it's just such a huge energy drain, and it's just not a pleasant way to be or live, to have to wait till life forces change on you. You want to be able to be proactive about it and recognize when it is time to do that. And so how do we know when it's time to change? Is the earliest stages is you're looking for is that autopilot, is when you just keep doing something always just because that's the way you've been doing it. Okay, that doesn't mean you have to change your job or dump your partner right away or even at all. It just means that is the time to start looking at yourself and saying, okay, why is this situation maybe not as joyful as it used to be? Am I just generally tired? You start doing the self-inquiry. What's coming up inside of me? What am I feeling? What am I thinking? What am I believing? How are my fundamental values and beliefs changing towards this situation? And I'll give you an example that worked for me, because you don't always have to change the situation. You don't always have to change your job or leave your partner or change where you move. Sometimes it's just a simple thing as changing how you perceive the world. And the example with me was as a personal trainer for many years, and why I got into exercise was because vanity was a huge deal to me. I really needed to have that six-pack. I really needed to have defined muscles and be strong and compete and get that energy rush from exercise. And that was something that when I was younger meant a lot to me. And as my values changed and shifted on the inside, I found myself starting to get really frustrated with people that came up to me and all they wanted to do was have a six-pack, or all they wanted to do was lose, 10 pounds when they already looked fantastic. And when I started getting frustrated at them, that was my internal key to say, okay, what's changing in me? That is something that I used to really like and dive into, but now it's starting to bother me what's going on. And so after many years and as part of my growth process, it started to become more apparent to me that health and wellness were a lot more of a priority than vanity and performance. And so I started to work more with people that had a lot of challenges in their life, or they had a lot of health issues, or they had a lot of physical pain, and helping people out of physical pain or helping them through their health challenges meant a lot more than just giving someone a six-pack. And so, and not a six-pack of beer, like a six-pack abs. And so over time, when I started to recognize my values changing, I could gear my business towards that. And that's an example of how all I had to do was shift internally. The reason I had to be at my job and as a personal trainer could no longer stand towards the situation. I had to develop a new reason, a higher reason that was more in alignment with the truths that were coming up inside of me, and my values were shifting. And as long as I could stay in alignment with that, I was fine in my current job. I did not have to quit my job. I did not have to start all over. I did not have to rework my entire life. All I had to do was just be in alignment with how I was growing and how I was evolving, and that's it. Once you've decided it's time and there's something in your life that has to go, these are usually sort of the things that are going to block you and how to get over them and around them. So the first one, and this is the most common mistake that I've made in my life, and I can see it in other people making the same decisions and choices as well, is that the first barrier is that your perception is focused too externally. And what I mean by that is you're in a situation that's not harmonious with you, and is causing strife and stress, and you're looking at it's your partner's fault, it's your boss's fault, there's the job scenario or situation, or there's all these things that are outside of you that are contributing towards why you're unhappy in the situation. And that may be true to a certain extent, but in the end, it still all comes down to you. It still all comes down to what you think, what you feel, what you believe inside. And so instead of looking externally at everything around you that's going on, that's causing this problem or contributing it, you have to start to look inside. And if you can start to do that, this is a huge step to moving forward and letting go. Because if you do not, and you're actually making life changes based on what others are doing or thinking or feeling around you, chances are you're going to move into another scenario where you're just repeating the same pattern over and over again, and it is just going to continue. So you got to look within first. And a lot of the times, and this is definitely what I recommend to start with, is just seeing if you can identify within yourself either a judgment, a belief, an expectation, some type of perception about how that is causing disharmony within the situation that you're in. And so what a lot of people do is they create expectations, and when they're not met, they get angry and upset. Or I create a vision of what my life is supposed to look like in the future, and then I compare it to how it is now, and it's not even close to that. And I make harsh judgments on myself because it's not what I expect it to be. So there's all these sorts of things that we do mentally to create disharmony in our lives, and we believe them as if they're actually true. But once we actually look at them and just ask ourselves, what would happen if I just let this idea go? This idea is causing problems in my life. What happens if it were not true and I just didn't believe it anymore, or just didn't operate from that place anymore? And if you can do that and create harmony in the situation that you're in just by changing your perception, that is amazing. That is probably the best thing you can do. And it just requires so much less effort, and it just doesn't throw your whole life out of control. And so that's usually the first place, and the first barrier is just not looking in. Everybody's looking outwards. The next barrier that usually gets in the way of letting go of something that you need to let go of is safety and security has to be satisfied. If you can't move forward in your life, this is usually where the block is. And within this, there are a number of sort of subcategories. Physical safety and security, your health. It's hard to move forward sometimes if you're experiencing difficult health challenges or you think your physical safety is threatened. Financial security, which is probably most people, I'd say across the board, is their block that keeps them stuck in a situation that makes it very difficult to let go. But along with that, social safety and security. Sometimes when you let go of something in your life, it means you are now by yourself. And some people just really need that social safety and security, the social safety net, to be able to move forward. And then the final level of subcategory of safety and security is just perceived mental and emotional safety. And this one is where a lot of people fall short, or maybe not quite aware of, is that when you have to let go of something, your mind automatically jumps into the future. And because you cannot tell what the future holds 100%, there's a big blank spot there. And what your mind does is it starts to project into the future what can happen, and it's usually negative. And this negative thing will happen if I let go, and this negative thing will happen if I let go. And it will jump to all of the worst case scenarios possible. And if you do that again and again over time, and you get trapped in that way of thinking, a part of you is actually going to believe as if that is actually true when it's not. And so that perceived mental, emotional safety and security is something to really be aware of. And what helps that is present moment living, and just being aware of when your mind's drifting off into the future and saying, okay, that's not true. I cannot tell the future. The future is, I can't tell that 100%. Just be in the present moment, and let's just take this one step at a time. What are the tasks that I have to do in front of me right here, right now? And ground yourself back into that action rather than letting your mind drift way off into all of the, dire circumstances it creates for you if you were to let go. Okay, so safety and security, financial, physical, social, and also just perceived mental and emotional safety and security. The next barrier is energy. So if you want to let go of something in your life, has to, and it does take a certain amount of energy. And now if you have truly been operating from a place of love, true love, and you want to let go of something, it usually does not take that much out of you. You might be sad, you might be a little upset, a little unhappy, discontent, but the emotions that come up when you let go of something are not that strong. But what we do, as I just explained in the previous point, is we hold on to something out of fear of what may happen if we don't let it go. And so we just call those negative fear attachments. And when you're holding on to something in your life as a fear and you're attached to it because of fear, the longer you hold on to it, the deeper you hold on to it, the more you refuse to let go. When it does come time to let go of something, it's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt. It's going to be uncomfortable. And the thing is, the more uncomfortable it is, the more energy it takes, because there's going to be a lot of negative emotion that comes up, whatever it is, fear or loneliness or grief or even just a lack of identity. And you have no idea who you are or what you're about anymore if this, scenario is not in your life anymore. And so all of those things take energy to process. And if so many people are walking around today and they're tired and they're overstressed and their diets are terrible and they're not getting enough sleep and they're staying up too late watching TV and their work demands are overrunning them, that they just don't have the energy to go through that emotional processing. So when you let go there, and if it's a negative attachment, there is some emotional processing that you will have to go through, and you will have to feel, and you will have to express, and you will have to release, and that is part of the process. And where most people fall short, I do believe, is they just don't have the energy for that anymore. And so because of that lack of energy, they just stay stuck exactly where they are, whether it's a conscious choice or it's unconscious. Can be either or, but it doesn't matter, because in the end, it just keeps you in the same situation. And so finding ways to build your energy up through proper lifestyle, through getting enough sleep, through proper diet, through movement, establishing boundaries with work so it's not overrunning you, getting to bed on time, all that kind of stuff, mindful practice, anything you can do to help sever the ties of the things in your life that are draining your energy. And the more you can hold on to that energy and keep it in for yourself, the more you can build up the energy reserves to start looking at what you shouldn't be holding on to in your life anymore, because it is taking your energy. Here's a key point to remember. That energy drain, the energy that it takes from you to process something, is only short term. So you'll feel like crap for a while, but eventually you'll rebound and you'll come up the other side, and it will actually liberate more energy for you. So it takes a little more energy from you in the short term to let go of something that you've been holding on to from a fear perspective. But once you let go of it, in the long run, it actually liberates more energy for you down the road. And this happens over and over again. I've witnessed this myself. And that energy buildup is key over time. And so now you kind of identified what the belief is, how you need to feel safe and secure moving forward, and you've built up the energy to let go. This is how the process works. And it helps to know how it works because it helps you build trust in the process. So you identify that belief, like I said, switch it with something else, or just let it go altogether, operate from that new way. When you're operating from that new way, inside of you, if you create more harmony in your current situation, amazing. That's probably the ideal to strive for in a lot of situations. But if something shifts away from you or disconnects with you or is no longer part of your physical circumstances, you have to feel some grief or discomfort, emotional discomfort. But eventually it goes away, and that negative energy that you've been holding on to, once it's released, more energy can come in, and you will now operate from a higher system or a higher belief system, or just more in alignment with love, and something better always 100% of the time comes your way. And so what you do in the process of how to let go is you just start with some small things, something small that you have to let go of. Think about starting with the self first rather than situations around you. How do I not love myself? What am I doing? What am I believing? What am I thinking that is causing me to act in ways that create a negative energy drain on myself? Start with those things, and as you let go of them a little bit at a time, you'll notice it will take you to a better place. You'll feel like crap for a bit, but it will liberate more energy, and then you'll feel like crap, and then it will liberate more energy, and it will continually take you to a better, higher place over time. And when you can do this with a lot of small things over time, it will liberate more and more energy within you that finally you'll get to be able to get to a place where you can start making some bigger decisions. And here's the key: when you do it at a whole bunch of times first at a small level, you witness it always taking you to a better place. You start to build faith and build trust in the process of letting go itself, that it's just always going to take you somewhere better. It's always going to take you somewhere better over and over again. You do this in little ways. So when you finally come to some of the bigger decisions that you have to make, you take that faith, you take that trust, you take that surrender with you into the bigger situation, and that helps you through a little bit more. And then it'll take you to a better place, and the process just repeats. And eventually, if you do it enough and you're conscious enough while you're doing it and you're watching it and you're observing it and you're noticing cause and effect, it starts to become more of just an automatic way of being. And when you can get to that spot where you have that much trust and faith in the process of letting go, that will always take you somewhere better, and it's just automatic, you are now in the flow of life. You are on the right path, and only good things and amazing things can come your way. Again, there's always going to be challenges, but you don't look at them as negative things so much anymore. You start to look at them as growth opportunities, challenges to overcome, lessons to learn. Your perception towards those things changes instead of, just, bad shit happening to you. So that's sort of the barriers and the process of how to let go. Just practice. That's all you got to do. And again, I guess probably the last thing I can say, and this is the worst thing that I did, is just I tried to do it alone. I could have made my life so much easier if I had just asked for a little bit of help or gotten some guidance or had that social support, because things could have been a lot easier for me had I had that. I never fulfilled that social safety requirement. I was always doing it by myself, being a lone wolf, trying to push through. And, I'm lucky I did over time, and you learn lessons from it, but it's so much more difficult. The process can be so much more easier if you have that social network and that social support. So get some help. Don't do it alone, and just start with little things. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. I hope this was informative, and much love to everyone out there, and take care.